I
The
thought we
Browns is
played.
like a
I thought we
cupcake team.
played. We played good overall up until, like I said, after that fumble, we just crumbled after that. But I'm not going to put
You,
it. I think our defense looked good. Um, they're definitely a brighter spot. Offense didn't play bad. I was a little
how are you
disappointed.
going to say the Jags defense did well? The Jags
I,
offense came out on the lead and then they couldn't hold them.
yeah, but if you
They
think of
let
it, think
Tyreek get
about
like
it,
an
it was
80
seven. It
yard
was
touchdown,
17,
bro.
17 to 7. And that's when ETN fumbled the goal line. We could have been up 24 to 7. And then wouldn't have
You're
mattered.
still
In
up.
the third
You're
quarter,
still up
would
10.
have mattered.
You're still up 10. Like you're
I
still
know,
two
but it
possessions.
was a momentum changer because right after that same drive, they threw an 80-yard pass to freaking Tyreek Hill, who also got arrested before the game. Did you see
Yeah,
that?
yeah, that one's a whole
Oh my,
nother. We're not even gonna touch that one, right?
unbelievable. That's a whole thing
But
within itself. And I saw there was some footage of I guess the
they
body
released all
cam
the
footage.
footage.
Yeah,
They released all the footage.
saw a couple snippets of that. It's definitely an interesting scenario.
It's not nearly as interesting as you think it is. It's blown out of proportion. The whole thing is blown
Oh,
out of
well, yeah,
proportion. But
of course it was.
stupid people doing
But
stupid things and then shocked when stupid things happen
it's
to
the
them.
fact that
That's
he goes through all that and still manages to, you know,
he should be
go
thankful they let him
130
go.
yards or 120 yards of offense.
Yeah,
It's nuts.
they should be he should be thankful they let him go. But
Well,
anyways,
that too, I agree. But yeah,
let's let's hop into it because we got an interesting topic today in respect of it's technical.
right. And
So
for those of you that are joining with us today, I appreciate you being here. My name is Ray Walter. For those of you that are attending for the first time, my name is Ray Walters. I'm the co-host for our EPICompliance, or I'm sorry, our main host for EPICompliance webinars. I'm joined by my co-host, Jose Jr., who has 17 plus years of experience in healthcare consulting, currently owns a mental telehealth clinic. And we've been putting these webinars on since October of last year, and really the reason why we're doing these just to create some awareness for our customers, for potential customers, or those that are interested in healthcare compliance. And yeah, today's topic today, we're going to be talking about business associate agreements, but um, to that point, Jose, I think a lot of we've done a couple webinars in the past on business associates. I think I did one with Dr. Delgado. I'm going to post that here in the chat for those that would like to maybe recap on that. But there's some confusion lately. I feel like there's some customers that either they don't know if they need an agreement in place for this company or not. Um,
yeah.
and
So
there's some that are overlooked, I would argue as well. And
absolutely. So let's simplify this, right? If I am a covered, well, first off, am I a covered entity or am I a business associate?
right.
So this is so like let's completely internalize this conversation because then that'll tell you where you go from here, right? So for example, if I am running a practice like myself, for example, or I represent a practice. Okay, cool. That would mean that I am directly involved with creating, transmitting, and maintaining electronic personal health information or EPHI. All right. So
Absolutely.
the easy answer is this. Am I doing that? All right. So what does that mean? That means that I am a covered entity or a business associate. Now, the problem is that a business associate can also be a covered entity as an originator,
Mhm.
and a business associate can also be a covered entity individually, right? So let's dive into this a little bit. If I'm a surgery center where I have a bunch of different providers that essentially rent out space, right? We're all separate EINs. Therefore, we're all covered entities. However, as the facility, I have I have business associates or a business associate relationship with all the providers.
Right.
And we need a business associate agreement to protect both parties, right? And the extent to which everybody needs to be protected is completely dependent upon what is everybody doing, if that makes any sense at all. So if let's use the example again. I'm the facility, but I'm literally only offering four walls and a roof. You got to bring your support staff, your EHR, all the nonsense, right? And the providers and all that stuff. Okay, cool. So then when we do up a business associate agreement, we're only really concerned about what happens within my four walls. Does that make any sense?
Absolutely.
Now, in my mental health practices case, I'm the covered entity because we're the ones billing Medicare. My providers are 1099ers. They're contractors. So they are business associates to me. If they work anywhere else, or even if they work anywhere else, or if they work for their own firm, because I have a couple guys that have their own business and then moonlight with me, then they're covered entities over there and business associates over here. Either way, we need to have an agreement for the patients that they see for us. Right. So
Right.
what does that mean? That means that anybody that is involved with treatment, payment, or operations, you need a business associate agreement with them. I don't care how big they are or how small they are, you need it. Treatment, payment, operations. In the world of a compliance that loves acronyms, it's TPO, right? So if in the process of them doing their job, they create, transmit, or maintain EPHI or PHI in general, they are a business associate, right? EPHI versus PHI is just HIPAA privacy versus HIPAA security. Cool. So now that we've got definitions out of the way, right?
Yeah.
Right. I think we've got.
Yeah, I did post our prior webinar that we did. I actually did it with
Cool.
Dr. Delgado. That kind of defines it a little deeper as well.
Cool.
But yeah.
And
Anyways,
if
go ahead.
anybody ever has any questions or anybody ever gives you any pushback, this is probably the easiest thing to find on hhs.gov. You can just literally type into any search engine, business associates, HIPAA security, or HIPAA privacy, and hhs.gov will literally pop up the area talking about what is a covered entity and what is a business associate and all the things that you need to have in place, right? So when we look at different relationships that we have, right? If we're in a practice, we already went over the contracted providers, but even a staffing agency, they can be staffing my
Such a
MAs.
good point. I'll tell you why. I've actually recently dealt with a
It's a
customer
popular one.
that is hiring a virtual assistant company that's based out of the Philippines,
Yep.
and yeah, medical assistant. So
Now,
I mean,
some of these guys are clever, or they try to be clever too clever for their own good, especially the staffing agencies that are staffing MAs or virtual assistants from out of the US, specifically Southeast Asia. They're pulling a lot of, yes, we're an American company. Yes, you can get a business associate, but you're not going to do it with me. You're going to do it
they're
with
making the
with this person that's attributed to your account directly. Well, then if that's the case, why am I paying you for anything?
exactly. That's the whole
You're
point.
essentially trying to pass through the liability, which is a no-no.
Can't do
You're
that.
the one you're the staffing agency. If I'm contracting directly with that person, fine. But if I'm contracting with you and you give me them, that means you're trying to push liability off, which is clever but wrong.
In other words, if you, well, obviously Jose and myself aren't attorneys, but if you're getting any sort of feedback like that, that's generally a red flag, right, Jose? You don't want to,
Mm-hmm.
that's putting your practice, your business at risk.
Absolutely. Because you know what they're going to do? If there's an issue, they're going to blame everybody else but you.
Yep.
or about themselves rather, right? So they're going to start with saying, nope, you're going to have to deal with the person associated with your contract. We have nothing to do with it.
Yep.
Which
Absolutely.
brings in a whole bunch of other questions, both legally and ethically, but I'm not even going to touch that right now. We'll move on from there. Okay. Um, the contracted providers, that's a very popular one that's usually overlooked. Oh yeah, I have an imaging center, but my radiologist is a contractor and he doesn't have a business, so I just don't have a business associate agreement with him. No, you should. Same with nurse anesthetists and surgery
Mhm.
centers in infusion centers, right? Like anything like that, you need to have a business associate agreement. It's almost better to have one and not need one than need one and not have one. You can choose what other
Absolutely.
analogies apply with that same concept.
I would to add to that, to your point, I'd say another couple ones that are overlooked. IT consultants or
Anything
cloud
IT.
service
It,
providers,
yeah.
because they don't necessarily interact directly with patient health information, but they're hosting or maintaining systems that store it. And you want to consider them business associates for that very reason.
So a couple other ones that are overlooked a lot are transcribers. So
Absolutely.
if you do voice to text, or you or your providers are talking into a recorder and someone transcribes it later, that's absolutely a business associate. Then you also have situations where you have to have translators, right? So
Hmm. Yep.
by rule, Medicare requires that you, as a covered entity, if you have a Medicare patient that speaks primarily another language and it's up to the top four languages in your area based on the last census, you have to provide it at cost to you. You don't get to
Mhm.
pass that off to the Medicare, which is a bunch of bullshit. But we're not gonna. I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it because translators can be bloody
True.
expensive,
Yeah.
right? Like it's annoying. So, for example, in Northeast Florida, do you know what the top four languages are? Right?
In Northeast Florida,
In Northeast
I mean
Florida.
English, Spanish, Creole.
Nope.
No. Mm, and
English, Spanish, you're absolutely correct on the top two. That's all of Florida for the record, right? But those are the
s-
obvious ones. Then you
some
start
sort
getting
of
to
dialect.
pockets.
I'm thinking now. I'm thinking like Miami.
No, no,
Like
no. I'm talking about Northeast Florida,
Northeast Florida. Ah,
just Northeast Florida.
not French. Would French be in that?
Nope.
French or
Sign language and Tagalog.
sign language? Okay, I'm sorry. Well,
Well,
I
so
should have
what's the
should have known
problem?
that. But what was the other one?
Tagalog.
Interesting.
All the Filipinos.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Yeah.
So what happens? I have to be aware of that as a business administrator. Because if I need translating services, I need to cover that. Now, there's an easier way to cover this, right? You can pay for a translating service, and that's expensive, depending on the language and the lead time and all that fun stuff. Or you hire people within the organization that speak those bloody languages.
Yeah. Yeah.
But again, that translating service is a business associate. You
Let me
need to
ask you
have a
this,
contract.
Jose. I know some healthcare providers will use like Google Translate. If there's no
Mhm.
translator on present, does that
Google will
mean?
never
Does
sign
that
one.
mean? Well, that's that's what I'm
Google will
getting
never
at.
sign one. So the problem is
But
that
technically speaking,
it
doesn't that make Google a business associate because of that you're using their application?
so the problem, I mean, you'd have an easier job, I imagine, and we'll have Sam on next week so we can ask her.
Sure.
But I would wager that you'd have an easier time in court saying that Google is a business associate because their cell phones hear and record everything than you
Very
would
true.
for the I'm using a random Google Translate, what is this phrase or what is this word?
Well, you could
right?
be
Like,
exchanging sensitive information and just typing it out there
but
too.
you're just typing phrases, right? So you're
That's
just your example, for example,
good
you're
point.
looking for what is the French word for any medical condition. You can't even say it in your home language and your mother language, and you're going to try to
Mhm.
find out what it is. Like I'm fluent in Spanish, but if you start asking me medical conditions to translate into Spanish, I'm going to sit here like I can
Mhm.
barely say them in English. Well, you want me to tell them the same in Spanish? Or vice versa. Like that's it's super tricky with these kinds of
Sure.
terminology. So when you're just looking up the random terminology, there isn't really, anything for that. So Google wouldn't be one there. Now, there are some sneaky ones that you wouldn't think about, but depending on your practice or depending on your organization, you may need to have one or it's built into your contract. So, for example, if I work with a DME company, if I work with a mobile nursing company, if I work with mobile providers of any kind that are not employed by me, then yeah, they'd be business associates. If anytime I'm signing onto a health plan, they're covered entities. So within their contract, if anybody ever bothers to read it, they automatically include the business associate agreement in there. Same with EHR companies, um, printer leasing companies. We talk about those a lot because they're a pain in the butt to get
Very
them to sign
much.
yours. So again, if you're leasing your printer from somewhere, leasing any equipment for treatment, payment, or operations, and it stores, creates, or transmits, you got to go and get that business associate agreement. It just
Absolutely.
covers your keister.
Well, that's definitely I certainly think that's a common one that's missed too. Simply because, if you're leasing those copiers and, let's just say your lease is up and they're picking it up, you better make sure that they're extracting
You
that
don't think
data.
about it.
No, no, not
You
at
don't
all.
think about
It's
it because I mean, I just signed.
super
I
missed.
just signed a. I just signed an agreement to get rid of our current printer to get a new one in our office,
Mhm.
and I need to make sure that I do two things. One, that the business associate agreement, I'm going to resend them hours because we're restarting the contract, and
Sure.
then two, I've got to go and make sure that the hard drive is either in my possession or I have proof that it is destroyed. I mean,
Absolutely.
again, we're going into the weeds a little bit, but that one's an easy one. If your IT is doing your devices or your printer is doing hey, your printer leasing company is handling that, and you don't want to store the hard drive for whatever the reason, you just need a certificate from that person saying, hey, you need a piece of paper saying, hey, we destroyed this. I don't care if they Hillary Clinton the damn thing or if they take it out back and put a bullet in it, right? Like you just need proof that it is destroyed. So,
Documentation is
um,
important for sure.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So when we're looking at business associates, though, let me jump back off the bunny trail, right? So let's say that you're working with a hospital, right? Or you're working directly with an insurance company or with a nursing home, or even if it's an organization that's self-insured,
Hmm.
you need a business associate agreement. Like, hey, let's say you're working for a sports team. You need a business associate agreement.
As a
Like
provider,
so yeah. So I
absolutely.
mean, like
Absolutely.
there's a lot of different things that people don't think about, but that would apply. Another one, if you're working with a pharmacy in any way that you're again that they need information back and forth. So if you're, for example, working with a biologic company and it's one of these new meds that's in the REMS program for pharmacies, you're going to be passing information back and forth. You better have a business associate agreement because you're the covered entity. Remember this,
Hmm.
guys. Ever since the PPACA passed, there's no such thing as I didn't know I wasn't supposed to. They will automatically assume malice unless the information and evidence tells them otherwise. Therefore, we need to be hyper vigilant about our rights. And the biggest way to guarantee that we get all of our rights is if we're able to push liability on the immediacy onto somebody else when there's a mess up. An example being this: the Change Healthcare snafu. Yes, Change had the breach. And because of the business associate agreements and HIPAA security and all the different methods, they're on the hook for all of the bad stuff that happened and for the corrective actions. However, they're not the covered entity, they're the business associate. Each individual practice, if we were to take HIPAA to the letter, each individual practice would have to notify each of their patients that were affected. Each hospital, each surgery center, each pharmacy, each PBM, each nursing home, ad nauseum. So that's where you saw right out the gate that the American Hospital Association actually sided with the AMA in talking to HHS and getting clarification on whether or not each individual covered entity that got hosed by their business associate, and correction, they're a business associate in a lot of these cases, right? So, getting hosed by 3 layers down, we're almost to Kevin Bacon
Just
here,
nuts.
like 6 degrees of separation. They had to be the ones that report, and they had to be the ones that had the corrective action. If that had not been the case, a lot of times simple corrective actions, if you can catch it, is something as simple as, hey, notifying all the patients, recovering all the information, and then paying LifeLock or something like that for 2 years, some kind of credit monitoring
Hmm.
agency or service for an extended period of time, right? That's a lot of people doing that. If you're telling me this is my EHR and all of my patients are in my EHR and I have a medium-sized practice of 3 full-time providers, you're looking just primary care wise, you're looking 6,000 patients were affected.
It's a lot.
I got to pay LifeLock for 2 or 3 years for 6,000 patients. Let's say I call up LifeLock and they're like, hey, I'll give you a bulk rate because you're doing so many lives. I don't even know how much it is, but I bet it's at least $100 a year. It's probably $100 a year, right?
Oh, minimum. Yeah.
You know what? Let's just.
We could quick search it.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing right now. All right. So if we go to LifeLock, for example, on their website right now, you're looking at the
Just type it
standard
into
of.
AI, man.
No, I just typed it into the search engine.
Standard plan for
Paid
LifeLock.
annually, it's $8 a month for the
Yeah.
basic one,
Yeah.
right?
Standard
So then
plan.
for the basic one, you multiply that by 6,000 patients, you're looking at $48,000 for the next 3 years.
Yeah, I don't think you'll be in business.
I mean, it's 150 grand.
That's a huge
You know what
hit,
that
man.
is? Ray, you know what that is? That's me going to a bank and saying, I need a loan for a provider for 1 whole year.
Essentially, yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
It
so
really it
having this,
stunts the growth of the practice,
yeah, it can
doing
completely hose everything.
oh yeah.
Right?
Oh
Like,
yeah.
so when we look at these business associate agreements, we really want to make sure that that everybody that's going to be a business associate that's working with our organization, we have an agreement with them, because if they screw up, I don't want to be on the hook for it. Like, my provider works from home. Awesome. He works with this one laptop. Awesome. He's a contractor. Awesome. His house gets robbed. That laptop was taken. Completely feasible story.
Definitely.
Who's on the hook for this? Well, if I don't have a business associate agreement, I can't punt the liability off. It's stuck with me as the practice. That's a problem.
He was a
For me.
1099, by the way, right? I might
Huh?
have missed
Yeah,
that.
yeah. If he's
Okay.
1099,
Yeah.
then
You
it's
gotta
not
have
on
an
me, it's
agreement
on
in place.
him.
Well, that
And the
well,
IRS rules would say that he has to
well, so
cover
long as
himself.
you have an agreement in place. But if you didn't have an agreement in place,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
you can
yeah.
always
But
go
that's what
back.
I mean, though,
Yeah.
right? Like, so I mean, by the way, which this is a whole nother bag of tricks, but depending on where you are
Hmm.
and the 1099 rules, like you really want to make sure that they are paying for it themselves. And the business associate agreement basically holds them liable for if they don't do things properly.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That essentially when you're attesting, when those 1099s are attesting to that agreement, they're stating they have a HIPAA compliant process in place. Whether they do or not, that's on them,
Yeah,
essentially.
absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely. So then
Ideally,
it's
you better be, you don't necessarily want to lie, but
no, 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 you're not. I mean,
but as the
but
covered
again,
entity, you're covered so long as they're signing that agreement.
yep. So again, we just want to make sure that these people are covered. People that are
Absolutely.
commonly in the office that are not business associates, your cleaning staff,
Yes.
they're not business associates because anything they touch, and this goes back to the mid 90s when HIPAA first came out, they're considered if they have any exposure, it's considered incidental. Delivery people, so UPS,
UPS,
USPS, DHL, all of
mm,
them
FedEx.
incidental. And that may not even be incidental because they are not supposed to open the packages.
Right.
So even if I'm a DME and I'm sending something to a patient, they're not supposed to open the package, so they don't know what in the world is in the package, right? Another one would be patient caretakers. So if I have a patient, let's say they're Medicare, but their caretaker comes with them when they
Mm,
come see us, we don't have to worry about a business associate agreement with them because the patient brought them. So the patient is giving consent when they bring that person with them, right? And they're not part of treatment, payment, or operations for me. They're part of treatment and operations for the patient, but that's a whole nother bag of tricks that you don't need to be worried about unless you're the one unless you're the one contracting those or employing rather, not contracting those caretakers, right? So
I
when
know
we
you
look
kind
at
of, or go ahead, go ahead.
no, no. So when we look at other services that are going on in there, right? So I mean, if I'm bringing in a phlebotomist, if I'm bringing in, anybody touching patients, absolutely. An accountant would not, a bookkeeper would not be considered business associates. A billing company would.
Which
Now
makes
that's
sense.
the no, well, but I can see where sometimes the confusion is. Your
No, of
billing
course.
company, yes. Your bookkeeper, no.
Yeah, I've gotten some customers that have reached out about bookkeepers or CPA.
Your CPA, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Unless they're diving into super details, which they should be smart enough to not want anyways.
Yeah.
You know? Um, so
Agree.
so yeah, so I mean, yeah, I'm trying to think of ones that people don't normally think
I was gonna
about.
say maintenance services, if you have a
No,
handyman or
they fall
somebody
under the
that's
they
that's
fall under
on
the cleaning
premise.
staff thing.
Yeah.
Your
Let me ask you this, Jose.
interns would though.
Yes, interns, absolutely.
Interns
Absolutely.
and externs, but you shouldn't have it with
It's a good
them.
point.
You should have it with the program that they're coming from,
The university.
the university
Absolutely.
or the community college or tech college or whatever organization they're coming from. Interns and externs would. Volunteering agencies, so if someone's volunteering, you need to have a business associate agreement with them. But for the most part, volunteers shouldn't be doing a lot of TPO other than just, hey, Susie, let me guide you to this area, or hey, let me grab this supplies for this person. Like they really shouldn't be that heavily involved.
I like the
So
customers of ours that they usually they'll contract with a university that'll provide them some interns. Um,
Mhm.
and yeah, we always advise them, send them a business associate agreement, and then make them take the training that we offer. Gives them something to
You
do.
have to make them take the training.
Yeah, you have to, yes. But it's kind of it's a not kill two birds with one stone situation when using our EPICompliance services. One, you can send them a business associate agreement through our platform, and two, you can also provide them the training.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
but what
So,
else? I'm thinking, I was going to say, you mentioned DME. Are DME companies considered business associates?
well, DMEs are covered entities. They're usually billing for the services, so they're
True.
absolutely business associates.
And lab companies.
They're usually billing for their services, so they're covered entities. So again, it's one of those things where so if you're a covered entity, you're going to be a business associate of somebody. Our mental health practice, if we consult for a hospital or we consult for a practice, or business associate for them. I mean, it's in regards to treatment, payment, and operations. But I mean, so we should have access to the patient health information in order to do our
Mhm.
jobs, but we still need to protect that data, right? So
Absolutely.
if and so this is where if I'm a primary care office, I don't need to send a business associate agreement to somebody that I'm farming out specialist stuff to. So if I have a patient, I'm sending them to GI or I'm sending them to ortho or I'm sending them to rheumatology. I don't need a business associate for that because they are covered entities as it is. Does that
Makes
make
sense.
sense?
No, makes
Now,
sense.
I don't need, also going back to patient consents, I don't need a consent from the patient to speak to their specialist
Right.
because this is in regards to treatment, payment, and operations. If I'm working with a nursing home or if I'm trying to get a patient into a nursing home, right? And I'm a care coordinator with a primary care practice or with an HMO or whatever, or I'm a transition person from the hospital, I can absolutely talk to the providers and set up DME and set up caretakers and all that and home healths and all that stuff because it's all about TPO. All those
Right.
people are going to be billing for services, right? So they're all going to be covered entities there. So
I have a good one for you.
I mean,
And I know you know this, but a lot of EMR, so obviously EMR, EHR
yep,
software, that they're
yep,
business associate, right? They're housing your
yep,
data. But obviously all these EMR, there's thousands of them out there, and they're
yep.
large organizations. You're not going to get them to sign your agreement. You have to sign theirs.
Yes, yes. So in those kinds of scenarios, you're not gonna have your lawyers aren't gonna beat their lawyers, right?
No,
But the important thing is that it's the law of mutual destruction, right? Like it's beneficial for everybody to have a business associate agreement when we're engaging in something like this. The EHR is incentivized to make sure you have one, and they're incentivized to make sure they have one, right? So traditionally, the details are going to be it's going to be yes, you're going to sign theirs, but the details are going to be what's important, right? So where does
absolutely.
liability start and end? How are issues resolved? That's usually the details that you're not going to have any leverage on because they're a larger organization than you.
Well, I think so. Well, or what benefits these scenarios, especially companies that want you to sign their agreement, is definitely have an attorney review. And
I mean, you should have, again, this goes back to something that we talked about months ago. As a business, you should have general counsel
yeah,
because as a business, I can't tell you how many times you're signing a legal document in a month, whether it's an employment agreement, whether there's an HR issue, whether there's an agreement or disagreement or an issue with a vendor, whether there's contract issues or you're looking to open up a new space, or, like there are thousands of things that you don't realize on a day to day basis that if you had a lawyer to at least say, hey, look at this real quick. And you're paying them a small retainer. You can stay out of trouble and save yourself tens of thousands.
Well worth it.
Because all you're doing is you're not asking them to really do anything. You're asking, hey, I'm not stepping on a rake, am I? And you move on. You know what I mean? Like you're not asking legal counsel. You're not asking to represent you in court. You're just asking them, hey, this is the situation. Is there anything I need to be worried about? Because even in those kinds of agreements, it may be something as simple as there's nothing objectionable in the business associate agreement with an Allscripts, with an eClinicals. The issue is going to be if there is an issue, they're going to dictate, for example, jurisdiction. I could be in Arizona, but because they're housed in Kentucky, they're going to, if there's any issues, they're going to want to mediate it in their home jurisdiction. That could be for a variety of reasons, right?
Right.
There may not be malicious reasons there. It just may be convenience reasons. Hey, I'm a Kentucky company, and so screw it. I'm familiar with Kentucky law. My lawyer is already from Kentucky. He's got a bar in Kentucky. He's already passed the bar for Kentucky. So screw it. This is where I live. You got an issue? Come to me. You know what I mean? Like a lot of times it's that kind of simplicity and just uh convenience factor, right? There may not be
Absolutely.
anything specifically malicious in there. And if there is, then it's not a very good business associate agreement to begin with, and you probably shouldn't be doing business with them, right? But if you're looking at a larger company that you are don't have weight with, you know, you're if they're on the New York Stock Exchange, you're probably not going to have weight.
Good
If
point.
they're publicly traded, you're probably not going to have weight, right? Like, but
Which most EMR companies, I feel like
which
that.
most almost
Most of them.
all the big EHR companies are publicly traded, along with all the insurance companies,
Mm.
along with all the PBMs that are owned by half the insurance companies, right? Like, so you know, you're looking at those kinds of situations. You don't have weight there. Don't worry about it. It is what it is, right? If you want to do business with them, then you have something there, and to make it a legitimate business associate agreement, they can't specifically hose you. They're just going to again try to carve out as much as possible what is considered liability on their side, as with all things. So again, you should not be afraid to sign somebody else's business associate agreement. I would highly recommend, if you have a compliance program, review your business associate agreement, or even have legal counsel just say, hey, can you just compare and contrast these two real quick for me, just so I know what I'm walking into and if it's even worth the fight. A lot of times it's something as simple as, hey, the jurisdiction is what's different. Is it even worth it then? No.
Absolutely. And I would
You
even
know what I mean? Like,
I'd add too, if you don't have a compliance program, or
if you don't
perhaps
have a compliance program, it doesn't bloody matter. Anything is better than nothing. You know what I
that's
mean?
right,
Like
get
if
EPICompliance.
I'm drowning, a tire is an awesome boat. But if I'm in a John boat, I'm not gonna want to go to a tire. I'm gonna want to go to a yacht. Right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you got nothing, something is better than nothing.
Well,
So, if you don't have a compliance program, it's 2024, get with the program.
I'd say get with the program and get with EPICompliance, because one of the tools that we offer through EPICompliance is sending out business associate agreements. And we provide the template. You fill in the blanks, you send it to your business associate. It's just like DocuSign. Once they sign it, they have a copy for their records, you have a copy for your records, and it is stored in one place. And you can access it and review it anytime.
There we
Um,
go. There we
just a
go.
thought, just a thought. But one more thing, Jose.
Completely shameless plug.
Absolutely. One more thing, as far as the legislation is concerned, once you have these agreements in place, right, with your vendors, your subcontractors, your 1099s, etc., how often do you need to review it? How do you,
As
do people need
HIPAA
to re-sign
security
it?
guidelines
People need to re-sign it
are
every
very
year?
clear.
Yeah,
All things need to be reviewed annually. They don't need to be modified, but they need to be reviewed. You need to document that you've reviewed them, and then you can move on. If there's something that changes, just go ahead and do a new one. If you're signing a new contract, just go ahead and do a new one, right? Like stupid little things can make a business associate agreement completely null and void. Hey, I changed the name of the business because tax reasons, or because, just changing the name of the entity could mean that the contracts are null and void. I've seen it happen a dozen times, especially when it comes to something as simple as owing money. You don't want to do that with liability. So if there's a change in something like that, absolutely. If you have a company like EPICompliance that's offering you compliance programs, then you may not need to actively modify anything, but I guarantee you, if they're doing their job every couple of years because the legislation changes, they're going to modify it a little bit. So you should just go ahead and do it. If you
Yeah,
haven't sent one out during this presidential administration, go ahead and send one. It's
absolutely.
that simple.
Mm.
It's really that simple. You know what I mean? Like, if it's been long enough to where you don't remember, probably about that time, you know?
Absolutely.
Um, but you really shouldn't do it more than once a year. Because there's no point. It's too much to manage. Most people have too many vendors to keep track of. Like I can't tell you how many vendors we have at our small practice when you include the contractors and all that fun stuff. So yeah, yeah. So I mean
Good insights.
this one was pretty cut and dry, but I mean like you'd be shocked by how many times we see these holes when we're looking at a practice. And it's just, you didn't think about it, like, I don't need to worry about it, or I didn't think about it, and I didn't do it. And then all of a sudden, your provider gets into a car accident with their laptop, and the laptop's missing. Now, what are you going to do?
I'm telling you, there's a lot of practices out there that don't know what a business associate is or a business associate agreement, let alone. I'm telling you, you'd be surprised.
Oh, no,
Um,
absolutely. I mean, so if it just review it once a year, call it a day. You know what I mean?
yep.
Like if you're all of a sudden moving into a situation where you're adding services, it's a good time to review all of your vendors. Make sure that you have them all, the current ones, while you're adding the new ones. Like if we're contracting on the practice or acquiring a practice or selling a practice, it's a good idea to have all those things in place. I'm seeing now that even malpractice insurances are requesting,
Mm.
a copy of the business associate agreement just so they can see that you're doing it or that you have it. So it's things are getting more complex, but they're getting more simple if you get organized. The day of just flying by the seat of your pants is it's long gone. You're 30 years past that point. So
That and doing things in house.
that's you
It's
got
it's
too much to do.
it's tough. Too much,
If
yeah,
you're the
too much.
office
Especially if you're a small
administrator,
practice and you're an office administrator. Too
I mean,
much.
if you're an office administrator, and let's say that you're lucky enough to where you don't have to deal with the finances, you're still dealing with the billing company, you're still dealing with HR nonsense, you're still dealing with customer service nonsense.
Mhm.
Then you're still dealing with the interpersonal relationship between the providers and the staff because somebody's still looking at you like mommy or daddy. Mommy, he just hit me. Mommy, he didn't do this. Mommy, why are
The
you getting on me when
certified
you
firefighter.
didn't get on them? Huh?
I said the certified firefighter of the practice.
This is true. Yeah. I mean, you're putting out
Always
fires
something
40,
you're
50
hosing
hours a
out.
week.
Yeah.
You haven't even done your job yet. You know what I mean? Like, so um,
Make
yeah,
it simple
so
for yourself.
keep it simple, stupid.
Get a compliance program if you haven't already.
Yeah, and if you don't have one, talk to Ray.
Talk to us. We're here to help. But
Yep.
yeah, this was,
So,
simple topic, but definitely an important one at that.
yep.
And if you guys have any questions or concerns, we'll let the floor to the audience. If you have any questions, go ahead and throw them in chat. Any concerns, please let us know here.
Yep. And then next week, I know that we have our healthcare attorney on. So we'll be
Yes.
talking about a couple different compliance things with
I
her.
think I made the topic name provider enrollment fraud, uncovering scams and protecting healthcare practitioners.
Okay.
So
I am gonna ask her about the pro athlete though.
yeah, no,
Pro athletes.
absolutely.
Because
Absolutely.
that one's just one that I can see both sides of it, but I just don't see how to manage it, right? So
It'll be good to get her perspective.
yeah, she'll probably be like, it depends.
Oh yeah, that's that. Yeah, that's an attorney
With
response.
compliance, it is a safe default answer when you don't know the details.
Yeah.
It depends. So
Anybody
perfect,
got any
perfect.
questions? Got any concerns? Let us know. If you got any topics you'd like us to discover to discuss in the near future, do let us know as well. Always open to discussing any healthcare trends, any compliance related topics. Just let us know. We did one last
Yep,
week on WISHA
yep,
versus OSHA,
yep, yep.
which is Washington State OSHA legislation. Got that request from a couple customers. So again, anything is possible. Let us know. If you haven't
Absolutely.
already, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. As I mentioned before today's episode, we did do we have been doing these webinars since October of last year. So please like and subscribe to our channel. There's a ton of episodes that we've done. Please check them out. Um, again, might have been a topic we've already discussed. I see one from Tracy here.
Yep.
Record keeping for HIPAA privacy officers. I don't think we've done one on that, Jose. That might be.
Yeah, we can definitely do that. Yeah, I mean, that one's one that that one's a retro topic. We don't talk too much about HIPAA privacy anymore. Yeah, that one we
We
can
haven't done it.
absolutely do
I
that
will
one.
say we haven't done it. It seems like we're sticking. Well, recently we're probably stuck to the HIPAA security side more than anything. But this would be a good.
Yeah, but HIPAA privacy is still absolutely a thing, and that's at the record keeping. There's some wonkiness there too when you have an
Well, there's
HR company or if you're self-insured and stuff like that. Like
it's
there
by
can be some
state
real
too, in a sense. I
yeah,
guess
there's some real pitfalls there that people don't really keep track of. So that's a good one.
Tracy, I appreciate that
Yeah.
recommendation, and we'll
Yeah,
certainly.
it include absolutely, Tracy. It didn't include all of it. I mean, between OSHA, HIPAA privacy, HIPAA security, like the level of HR, all the record keeping, all that fun stuff. Yeah. Tracy, keep an eye out, but I think Ray, that'll probably be a good one for I mean, we've got
I
next week
want to
covered. The week
say we
after that
got
is
next
Dr.
week.
Delgado.
We got next week with Sam. We got the week after with Dr. Delgado. I would think, I guess that would be end of September. We can maybe push this one
Yeah, but
in.
we've got one from Dawn that she wanted to go over at the
Don
end.
want to come back on, so we can
No,
do.
no, 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 no. But she last week she mentioned we'll I'll talk to you about it. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head right now. I'm brain farting. But Tracy, we'll definitely have it up in the next 3 or 4 weeks.
It'll
So
either be end of September or first week of October. So just be on the
yeah.
lookout. You'll get some correspondence.
Yep, yep. And by the way, Tracy, because we are males, if we forget by middle October, definitely remind us and we'll definitely put it on the books right there.
Listen, I won't
So
forget because it's a work between itself to keep the topic. I will, we like to try to stay ahead on these topics and not coming up with one every single week. We try to have at least 3 or 4 topics ahead of time. So this is very helpful. I'm not going to forget this. I'll tell you that much.
well, you
Jose
forgot the
might,
one from
Jose
Dawn?
might, and I'll remind him. Okay, the one
Yeah.
from Don, I have it written down somewhere. I got a stack
Oh,
of
see, we
I got
found
a
a
stack
whole
of paper. I
system.
got a stack of webinar papers here, and it's in there somewhere. I know it is. So, um, what I can always do as well is I can go back to Zoom and pull the chat reports, and I
Oh,
know
there you
Don.
go.
I know Don put it in there as well. So, but I got it written here somewhere. I'm gonna dig it up.
Perfect, perfect. Well, Tracy, if you want to get to it a little bit faster, Ray and I would be more than happy to jump on a call so that way, you're not waiting on us. But we can definitely and then coincidentally enough, that'll help us put everything together for the actual Zoom call. But obviously we won't mention names and all that fun stuff. But yeah, if you want some help with that, absolutely reach out. We'll be more than happy to jump on a call with you like this week and we can knock that out and help you out with that. Okay. Cool. Ray, I gotta jump on a billing call for the practice, but um definitely everybody stay out of trouble.
Yeah,
If
you
you've
as
got any
well.
questions or concerns, reach out to us. We're definitely available. So
Absolutely. Appreciate everybody that attended today, and hope you found this beneficial. And yeah, we'll see you guys next week. Just look out for an email with the link to register for next week's event.
thanks, guys.
Take care, Jose. Thanks, Tracy.
Bye.